DeNicola. Welcome to Uncommon Philanthropist.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to have a good conversation today.
Well, I'm so glad you reached out to introduce yourself and your family foundation. I would consider you're a traditional philanthropist versus an uncommon philanthropist. But in learning more about you, I really believe your emphasis on service and really getting it out there is really a hallmark of uncommon philanthropy. So you were both, and I think it's going to make for a fabulous conversation. Well, let's start with you and where you grew up, just a little bit about your background.
I grew up in Bucks County, Pennsylvania, a little town called Newtown outside of Philadelphia. I grew up playing in cornfields, so it wasn't like I was mainly in Philadelphia. My parents are serial entrepreneurs. They started to get very successful in my teen years, and then we moved into Philadelphia. So I like to say that I had a little bit of the suburb life and then a little bit of the city life before I went to college out in Long Island. So then I had a little bit of the Long Island, New York life for a little bit. And then my brother had a beautiful baby girl and asked me to come back to be a very active aunt. So I moved back to Pennsylvania to be an active aunt and then kind of followed my parents into their businesses. And through the course of that, I realized in a few trips that I was invited to that business wasn't really for me, that I wanted to be in service of others. I just didn't know what that looked like at first. So I went back to school to be a vet tech. I thought maybe it was animals. And then through a really interesting trial and error, meeting a lot of diverse people, I found out that my calling was philanthropy and diplomacy.
And you have a degree in elementary education, is that correct?
Yes, elementary education, and I also studied business and sociology.
And I think what you're doing a lot of, in putting yourself out there and educating people about philanthropy, it's that of a teacher as well. So you never know where those skills are gonna pop up.
Definitely.
So tell me, when was your family's foundation established? Like, how old were you and when did you have first exposure to that?
Well, my parents were always very charitable. They were always telling us to help those that we could. I actually made my parents nervous at a very young age. They would say to me, "You'll literally give the shirt off your back," which made them a little nervous. So I always grew up with them kind of telling us to be in service of others while, protecting ourselves and focusing on what it is that we wanted to accomplish. But it wasn't until I got an invitation to travel on behalf of my father to an orphanage in Africa that I came back and said, I need to be doing more. And so it was only, I believe, in 2016 that we started a group called Cosmo Cares. And then 3 years later, we created the DeNicola Family Foundation. So we're still working on it. So I would say like 2019, 2020 was when we really started to come into our own. And then in the past 3 years, we've really established ourselves locally and globally, and we continue to expand. It really wasn't until my 30s that we officially started to get into the world of philanthropy.
I love that so much. And I know about the power of Africa on one's heart. I too have been really rocked. And I think that's a message I want to encourage people who are considering philanthropy is it expands your worldview when you get out and you get close to people and you really learn about the struggles and often the joy that comes with the struggles. I'm sure you probably found that with those orphans in Africa that, they were probably hungry and didn't have much hope. But did you see joy in those kids?
That was what changed me, honestly. The orphanage that they went into was a fabulous orphanage. It was a great curriculum. They ended up teaching them multiple languages, computer science, how to cook, how to meditate. It was a very it was a great education system, but a lot of the children, either their parents died of AIDS or they themselves have HIV or AIDS. So you would see them have to have their treatment and then feel very ill afterwards, but then bounce back so fast and want to go play soccer with their friends or, want to be around you and always smiling and so happy that you were even there engaging with them. That was the moment. It was the joy that changed me, not so much the struggle, but to see individuals struggling and still seeming like or feeling so blessed that they woke up that morning, or any little thing that they had was everything. It really made you reevaluate the issues that go on in your life or the things you were upset about on a regular basis. And it kind of prioritizes, what do I really have to feel devastated about? So it was definitely the joy and the culture and the welcoming nature of I was in Malawi, and yeah, that's imprinted on my heart, and I don't think we'll ever go anywhere.
Great. Thank you for sharing that, Morgan. And I heard you say that caring is an action, not just an emotion. So just unpack that a little bit.
I remember the first time I said that, I was in a meeting with my dad and my coworker, and we were just discussing what it meant to be charitable or giving. And those words just came out of me, and I was very passionate about it because I felt like we all say we care. We all say we want to help people, but we don't know how. And we don't take action with all of the different things and gifts that we do have. And that always rubbed me the wrong way. We're very quick, I call them soapbox warriors. We're very quick to get on our soapbox and say what others should be doing or how things should be kind of being taken care of, but we very rarely take the action. So the big message that I always like to say is that if you feel like something needs to change, you need to be the person to change it and not wait for somebody else to change it with whatever it is you have.
That's so good. So good. And I think one of the reasons for Uncommon Philanthropist is the beauty of philanthropic service. I mean, not only are you helping those that you serve, but it boomerangs back and impacts your life in ways you just can't understand. And I think people that are outside the realm of philanthropy or volunteerism or service to others, they just don't know what they're missing. And I believe the table is open for everybody. You don't have to be rich. That is such a misconception that being a philanthropist is somebody who has a lot of money. That's not what it means. It means love of humanity. And that is something we're all capable of. And if we all just reach and give a little bit, what an impact we can have on our world. Morgan, for you to be so young and just so wise in this area, I love it so much. And I think you can really be an inspiration to a lot of people to just get out there and just go do it. That's my tagline is let go. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. It's like people don't know. They just are like, I don't even know where to start. Well, start on Google. You can do it with anything, Google volunteer opportunities near me and then go serve. Or if you know something specific that you want to do that. So it's really not hard. It just requires you to take the action and to do something. Find an organization you can really sink into. And it may take a few attempts. That's kind of the fun of it.
Yeah, and there are so many groups, there are so many people who have so much passion that finding something that resonates with you, you will find a group. You'll find a group, you'll find an issue. But the thing that I push the most as a next-gen philanthropist is I say that we've done very similar things year in and year out because the issues have been the same since the beginning of time, right? And we've done things very similar. So the thing that I encourage for the next-gen philanthropists is ideas. You don't need money. You don't need to say, I don't have time. If you have an idea to resolve an issue that really your heart and your mind, it sticks with you, and you're able to come up with a thought of, it would be a really interesting way of addressing this. That idea, you've now just started something. Philanthropists need ideas. We need people to come in and consult and tell us what people want to see or ways to resolve these issues. It's not just for a small group of people that have a lot of money. It's really entire communities coming together to really try to resolve these issues in maybe a new and unique way. So I also like to say it's really the generating of ideas. We need everybody.
That's so great. I quote my pastor a lot. He has a saying, further you are from a problem, the easier the solution seems. So, people are so quick to just be like, oh, you should do this or you should do that. But when you get up close, you can see how complex it really is. And I think that is an encouragement that I give to people. It's like you have to get in order to fully understand. Like homelessness, my gosh, it's such a complex issue. But they're people.
Yeah.
You know, there are neighbors, there are brothers and sisters. You can't just be on the sidelines judging and throwing up your hands saying, what can we even begin to do about that? Because God works by saving one person at a time. And you may be that one that's called to get in there and mentor somebody. I mean, you just never really know how you're going to be called and what your purpose is within philanthropy.
Absolutely, absolutely. And society, yes. And a lot of the issues of our culture and our societies are really mirrors. And I think we have to realize that everyone on the other side of this mirror is you if you had made different decisions. And I think that that's a very important thing to humanize one another.
For sure. So you talk about being diplomatic. I'm like, wow, that's such a government term. Talk to me about kind of your mindset and your language around diplomacy and how it's just needed so much in this day and age.
I am the vice chair of an NGO called the Humpty Dumpty Institute, and we work a lot with US-based embassies around the world. We work a lot with Congress and the Senate and all different government groups. It's also it ties in with my philanthropy, and I realized that diplomacy, people make it to be this very packed word and immediately think politics. And I'm here to say, not really. Diplomacy is managing relationships. It's the thoughtfulness, the empathy, being tactful in a conversation, and realizing that the people that you're speaking to have insight and information, even if you don't view it that way. These are things that we can take in and absorb to see future issues or future resolutions. And it was through my relationships with more and more and more diverse groups that I realized diplomacy is everything. Diplomacy is how we talk to our parents, our significant others, our children, our bosses, our coworkers. Diplomacy we use every single day. And we like to kind of pass it off to politicians and say, well, no, diplomacy is something that only leaders in government need. No, we all need it. We all need to have this ability to be thoughtful in our interactions and a little bit more strategic in where we place our energy and being less dismissive in the ways we interact with one another. Because again, anybody who comes to the table, anybody who walks into your space has something to teach you. And it's really up to you what you take in. Even if you don't understand it in that moment, it might make a lot of sense 10, 15, 20 years down the road. So there's really no harm. There really is no harm in hearing people out and coming from a little bit more of a place of understanding, even if we don't agree. So diplomacy is near and dear to my heart because I truly and firmly believe that it is in every engagement we have with another human being.
It's so good, Morgan. And I think what happens when we begin to dialogue with people that we don't agree with, it's like the blood pressure goes up and you shut down and you're not able to hear what they're saying. So do you have any tips on how we can lower the temperature and really just kind of be cool and really listen to what's being said?
Well, I think we forget that every skill takes practice, right? Like every little thing that we do, we have to do it over and over and over again, and it gets a little easier and you get a little better about it. Cooking, weightlifting, working out, every little thing that we do, we get better at. So, of course, the first time you're going to have these conversations, you're going to sweat. I still sweat at some of these conversations. And I go, I really hope my face isn't turning red. I do still get that way. But the good news is every time you do it and you check yourself, in a sense, it becomes easier and you start to listen more and more. And then there's this beauty in this moment because you realize you have self-control and that ultimately you give value to everything in your life. You are the master of your life. So you assign value to every conversation. You take from every conversation what it is you want. And if you're able to really listen and maintain that superpower of self-control, respond, don't react, you'll realize anybody that comes again, into your little bubble, you have that control over yourself and you have control over that situation. And whatever you decide to build your foundation off of can't be shook. But I think it's important to realize how strong your foundation is by testing if it can be shook. I think that's kind of a very important thing that we don't realize is it's like when you build anything, don't you want to see? Don't you want to see how strong it is? Don't you want to see really what you stand for? And I think that the more you start to allow people to have these conversations and you'll say like, oh my God, like this is shaking me. Well, then it's a moment of self-reflection. It's not really a blame on the other person. I think, again, then you need to start being like reflecting on why am I so shook by this? Or why am I feeling this way? And then again, with each of those practices, I'm not saying to go out and like really stand across from your polar opposite and say, let's get into this conversation. Start small. Like really start small, build it up and see where it goes. Because I think over time, I find that I get less shook. I listen more. I understand more. I can see from another person's point of view more. I find I'm less angry. I find my blood pressure is pretty good. But it's all of those moments leading up, and I'll continue to do it and continue to practice it. But if I can do it, really anybody can do it.
So good. Well, and I think remember to breathe.
Yes.
Just stay calm. Remember to breathe. Quit trying to convince people. I think so many people approach it as a debate or trying to win an argument instead of trying to approach it as truly understanding one another. So when you come at it from that perspective, I think you're able to move ahead and have a good productive conversation instead of a full-on blowout. And that's, my definition of philanthropy. There's a give component, there's a serve, and there's a love. And so what we're really talking about is that loving one another. We are all in this together. And I was talking to somebody yesterday who said philanthropy is connection. So ultimately, we want connection. We need each other. And I think when you seek to truly understand somebody's viewpoint, that's when those bonds really, really form. Instead of trying to convince or coerce, seek understanding instead of winning the debate.
That's definitely when change occurs, when the intention is not change but connection. That is because then you're an example. You're an example of why that person can feel safe around you, why that person can be honest around you. And when that person is able to open up and be like, this isn't a person trying to change me, this is a person trying to understand me, those conversations can get a lot deeper. And I always find that asking a lot of questions also help alleviate my preconceived notions or the assumptions that I'm making about this individual or where their beliefs stem from. It takes that position of curiosity that really does make people feel comfortable, heard, understood, those connections like you were just saying. And those are the moments that real change happen. And it's not always the other person. It can be very much you, because we all are these creatures, the elasticity of growth, we're constantly growing, we're constantly moving, and you could be the person that ends up changing. That's not a bad thing. That could be a very beautiful, awesome moment that you connected with that person and realize something that you didn't realize.
Sure. Well, let's talk about the Humpty Dumpty Institute, since we're talking about diplomacy. Help us understand how it was founded and the purpose of the organization.
So it actually started dismantling mines. So the goal was to go into places where there used to be a lot of war and finding these mines and kind of getting them out and making sure everybody was safe. And then from there, it evolved into teaching different people how to grow different crops and start kind of their own businesses. And then it even grew from there. It became more culture programs. So we have all kinds of culture programs, from food, music, art, and kind of this exposing different groups of people to other groups of people to kind of, again, give that 360-degree view of the world and why people might be the way that they are, why they think the way they are, and exposing ourselves to these new cultures kind of helps you be like, oh man, I like this, or this is kind of a part of me or speaks to a part of me. So we do these culture programs, but we're big on education. That is what we do. We bring different groups of government to other groups of government so they can discuss either issues that have happened and how they resolve them, or things that could potentially happen and how one another can learn. So even though I'm not a teacher with my education degree, I kind of facilitate a lot of these dialogues and get these groups of individuals to either see from a different perspective or hear about future issues or how to resolve them.
So interesting. And in what parts of the world are you serving?
Well, right now we might be in Uzbekistan, possibly Pakistan. You have to wait until the last minute, but I mean, we've been all over Africa. We've done things in Dubai and China. We've pretty much been everywhere. There isn't a place that we haven't been. But again, it depends on the issues and because it's US based embassies, what they would like to see and what they've heard from where they're placed, what the groups of individuals surrounding the embassy would like to discuss. So it really depends on the place and the topic where we go.
So interesting that, you're working with that level of government around the world. But then, like in Africa, it drills down real quickly where you're working in a remote village, in a school. It's a lot quicker to kind of get to that level of connection versus in the US, there's just so many layers that you have to get through. So that's amazing.
Yeah, each of these trips have that moment that we incorporate like a cultural experience. It's a lot of, I love when people are like, oh, they're on vacation. No, it's very much like being back in school. You're in sessions early in the morning to late at night, but we do 1 or 2 culture programs where you get to go out and see people and meet people and really kind of see what that culture is all about and what it's like to be with them and around them. So that way you kind of really get that feel of what's going on. So it's a lot of classwork, but is a connective moment as well.
Well, I have to ask about your dad. With a dad name like Cosmo, it sounds like him and your mom are really just such brilliant entrepreneurs and business people. What was it like growing up in a household like that?
Oh, the Cos. I call him the Cos. My parents it was a little intimidating growing up, honestly, because my mom was leading the way in the 80s as a woman business owner. She came up across, a lot of issues being a woman in a work environment. And she was always very forthcoming explaining that to me, even though I was very young and didn't quite understand it until I got older. She always would tell me you need a thick skin if you want to really effectively create change. Sometimes you have to kind of become a part of different groups that you might normally not be a part of. She was very forthcoming in what it takes to be a strong, strategic woman. And still to this day, she's still giving me constant advice and I'm still taking it. She's a very strong woman. And then my dad's a love. He's a very caring, thoughtful man. And any person that he's ever had around him, you could just see the love of everybody. But he's also, again, a very strategic guy who always knew what the best move in these different businesses, because they had everything from software to technology and healthcare to publishing to sports and sports management, talent management. So I've gotten to see everything from the inside of a box factory to plays off Broadway to sporting events. And I've gotten to see what it kind of takes in each of those worlds to find a sense of success. And in doing that, I mirror it actually in philanthropy and charity. But they were definitely intimidating when I was younger because you had that choice to follow in their footsteps. And I always thought to myself, well, it's going to end one of 2 ways. Either I'm going to succeed and then people will be like, oh, well, of course, they're your parents, or you're going to fail and not live up to those expectations. But my parents, they were always they pushed you. They pushed you because they always knew what you were capable of doing. So if you were falling a little short, obviously as a kid and a teen, it would get very frustrating. But your parents always know what you're capable of. They were always pushing me to accomplish more and find my passion. And they still very encouraging, very helpful. I don't think that there is a day that goes by that I do not talk to my father. And I live 6 minutes from them, so I can't quite get away from them.
Well, and that's amazing that you were able to lead the foundation, which is attached to the business, and that, you still have all that interaction. And what a gift that is to him and to you. And I mean, that's truly family legacy. So really cool stuff. Once I kind of started reading about everything, I was like, oh gosh, there's more. And then you're involved with a NFL Humanitarian Awards program. Tell us
Yeah.
about that, because I am such a football fan, and I, love to hear about that. So Morgan, share more about that.
So our family used to be part owner of the indoor arena football team, the Philadelphia Soul. So we got very involved with football. We grew up watching football. Football is a very big part of our family. And my dad met Lee Steinberg. He is the man that the movie Jerry Maguire is based off of. I'm probably dating myself, but he met Lee and they hit it off. And every year Lee has a big Super Bowl party in the host city of the Super Bowl. And they came up with this idea to do a humanitarian award. So it's the Steinberg DeNicola Humanitarian Award for NFL players or front staff or coaches that are contributing to either where they came from or now where they play and are kind of doing their own charitable work or philanthropic work. And we recognize all the work that they are doing. And it's wonderful. First, there's this brain health forum where we talk about the issues of brain health in the NFL. And then from there, we have our humanitarian awards where we recognize those players or those coaches. And then we all celebrate together and celebrate the day before the actual Super Bowl. So it's really a beautiful coming together and recognizing all of the incredible work that individuals in the NFL are actually doing.
So do you personally get to go to those parties?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. I love them very much.
Oh, fun.
I've met some really cool players. I've had some really fun, interesting conversations because my goal, I always like to try to make a player laugh. And then I tend to like to talk to them about things other than football because I feel like they're probably tired of talking about football. But it's always a great time. And some of those guys are just incredible. And I get to meet a lot of their moms who encourage them to give back to their communities. So it's definitely a good time.
And I understand, let's see, Mr. Steinberg is very philanthropic himself,
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
And he really mentors his clients on the importance of that.
Yes, he's a wonderful man, a lot more soft-spoken than you'd think. But when you get him to open up, you'll see he's a very kind and compassionate guy.
Let's talk a little bit about mental health, because that's kind of part of one of your areas of impact. So what attracted you to that? Tell us more about that.
So I, at a very young age, realized something wasn't quite right. I was a very emotional kid, and I had a lot of anxiety and depression, and it wasn't until college, a little after college, that I realized I have BPD, borderline personality disorder, and that I needed to do a lot more work on learning to, I don't want to say overcome because you never overcome it, but learning to work with the issues that I had. And again, this is why I love my family so much. They recognized it and really encouraged me to get the help that I needed to kind of stop projecting so much and really kind of sort through the things that were going on. So I spent the next over 10 years in therapy doing different modification therapy and kind of reprogramming the way I viewed things and the way I was reacting to certain things, and really was able to kind of come into my own after taking that personal accountability and really doing a lot of trial and error in my mental health journey. And through the process of that, I realized how we all struggle with different things and how debilitating they can be, especially with me having such anxiety and depression. There were times I physically couldn't get out of bed, or I break out in rashes and actually physically get ill. And these are issues that so many people are having. And I think that the topic shouldn't be as taboo if all of us are having so many issues. But I also noticed through the course of my journey how quickly people are to prescribing medication rather than starting small with other changes of lifestyle and things that we're doing to see if there are other ways of working with whatever issues we have. So I became a real big advocate for getting into therapy, physical health, finding other tips and tricks for ways of kind of quieting. Like for me, it's cooking. I absolutely love cooking, but I have to work out as well. So I became a big advocate on honesty, on talking about it, but also the personal accountability aspect of it that's either people love or hate. But I think it's very important for us to take kind of our mental health into our own hands, find out what really works for us, and kind of put in the work to really be the best versions of ourselves. And also in philanthropy, I noticed that mental health is a real struggle for a lot of people in the philanthropic world and the charity world, because we get these high highs from helping people and it's wonderful and you feel great and you feel like a superhero. And then day in and day out, you see more and more and more people that are having issues and more people that are struggling. And then you crash and you feel like you're never doing enough and that it's an endless, a daunting task to try to help people. And then we'll ride that high again when we are able to help people. So I realized with that swinging pendulum that mental health is very important also in the philanthropic world, and we should be discussing it a little bit more of the needs of those who serve others.
And that's so true. And I know that for many nonprofits, large and small, the fundraising, I mean, that is such a stressor for so many organizations just all the time. It's like, is the money there? And not just that stress is so, man, that'll affect your mental and emotional health so much.
Yeah.
And I don't really know, with more people giving and kind of being intentional and really trying to encourage people to think about, instead of making a big gift at the end of the year, think about being a monthly donor. To have that recurring monthly revenue is so helpful for smaller nonprofits. The big gifts are great too, but it's great if you could do both. And I appreciate you being open and honest about that, because I think so many times we don't talk about mental health. And I mean, there is, when you bring things to the light, you never know who's going to be listening to this and who you can help by being open and transparent about that. You look at you and talk to you and it's like, whoop, she's got it all. We all have our thing.
Dark times and moments. I usually make the joke when people are like, how do you handle your dark moments? I say I get on the treadmill and I cry. I cry a lot. And I think that, it was through therapy that I learned to have a sense of humor about it. And I've made more connections with great individuals that I can have a sense of humor about, but we can also encourage one another in all right, you've cried, now let's get up. Let's get moving and let's get back to what we need to do. And I think the more we talk about it, the more we'll find those individuals that really kind of have that transparency and can kind of help lift one another up.
And life is a series of mountaintop and valley moments. And then mountaintop, that is philanthropy and that is life. And you just have to have faith that better days will be coming. But you have to, as much as you are able, you have to do your part to move through it. And sometimes it's just incremental things that you do to get out of bed, even if it's just for a little bit. But everybody's journey is so distinct. And this country, we really are so resource poor in mental resources. If you do struggle and you don't have financial means, it's very, very hard to find help. So my heart goes out, and I think we're having more conversations about this. So maybe we'll see some innovative solutions on the horizon soon, because we've got to take care of our people.
The conversations are definitely starting. I absolutely love seeing them. I think we just need to be I feel as though we still tiptoe on it. And I think if we want to normalize it, you shouldn't whisper. You should just talk about it and really kind of own it and be like, this is, it just is. And I don't think we need to really tiptoe, but really own it and take control of it, and look for those resources, or be ourselves a resource, a place for somebody to, again, feel like they can go and talk and feel comfortable, and to encourage one another to be like, you got this. Or do you want me to wrap you up like a burrito in a warm blanket and cry with you? Sure, let's do it. Because sometimes that's really what we need. So I think the resources are getting better. I don't think we should have to whisper about it. I think we need to just really be real about it, and a little bit more assertive in I want to get better. I want to be able to work with this. And really kind of take that initiative. But there are more resources. And like you said, we're getting a little bit at least more creative in trying to get them out there.
Amazing. So what advice would you have for somebody just beginning their philanthropy journey?
Find your passions. The first thing for me was figuring out what I wanted to do rather than just saying I want to help, because you're going to get real overwhelmed. Speaking about that swinging pendulum, I think it's very important to focus and kind of narrow down on what, and meditating on this, praying, whatever it is that you do that talks to your higher self or God or whatever. I think it's figuring out what really talks to you and what you want to spend your time around and being involved in and finding solutions for. For us, that's conservation, the humanitarian recognition, diplomacy and cultural diplomacy, and global health. Those are our 4 pillars and passions. The reason we have 4 is because I'm a family foundation, so we have to speak for an entire family, which can be a little difficult. But narrow it down to 1 or 2. And then, like you said, do your Googling. Find some groups that are doing things that you're like, that is so cool, or that is interesting, or maybe I could do that, and start getting a little bit thoughtful on what you can contribute. Programs, supplies, time, money. There are so many different things, and we each have our gifts. Find out what your gift is for that specific thing and get involved. However you see that. And I think it's taking those baby steps of involvement. Don't overwhelm yourself. Don't burn yourself out, or you'll just stop doing it and you'll walk away. Baby steps. I'm going to do it an hour once a month. I'm going to now do an hour a week. Figure out the time that you can contribute to this. And from there, just kind of let it grow. It's like planting a seed. You're not going to keep moving that dirt over to see if it's growing, right? You're going to just plant the seed and see what happens. So I think that those are the best steps moving forward, and find really what lights that fire in you.
Yeah, for sure. And ask your people that you're connected with at work or in community. Do you serve anywhere, or, are you connected with any nonprofits? And then ask to go along, what has been your experience there? I mean, that's a real good way to kind of tag along and get a firsthand look at what's going on.
Become that bridge, become that connector of dots. Maybe that's your talent, and find other individuals for them, or other groups. Oh, you know who you should talk to? This person, let me get you their information. That's really what we're trying to do, is just create a network of individuals that can help one another.
For sure. That connecting piece of philanthropy is so important.
Crucial.
So I have one more question for you around the foundation side. So I'm sure that you have a lot of inquiries, and there's a lot of need out there in the world, and a lot of people knocking on your door. You have to get good with saying no. So what's kind of your thought process on being able to say no, and what I think we all need to learn to be able to say no sometimes? Talk a little bit about
whatever requests come in have to fit into one of those 4 pillars. Or that's a little bit more of an easy no, because if it's not something that we do, I can't really help you out with that. If you're doing something that I, again, know somebody's that's doing something similar, I will get you in touch with them. The reason I say I is when you fill out those inquiry forms on our website or message us on social media. Hi, yeah, that is directly me. I am the one who gets all of those, nobody else. So if we do get one of those, I will try to put you in touch with somebody else. But it is difficult to say no. I mean, in the beginning, would always try to very justify in the strangest of ways everything. And just like any business, just like yourself, you have budgets. I mean, the money isn't endless. I would would love for money to be endless. But eventually, you can't do everything. So you have to also allocate a certain amount of funds per month, half a year, and say this is all that I have. Now, if it's something that I feel as though I know another group or another individual will be really interested in, I'll try to pull somebody else in to partner with to do whatever program that is. But it doesn't always, that's when your sales kind of comes in, because then I have to sell that idea to another person. But the no's are always hard. I mean, it gets a little easier, but I think when you really have those passions that you have to stick with, you have a budget that you have to stick with, and you realize you are a human being who only has so much time and so much energy. And if you go past that, your own health, mental health, physical health suffers from that. I think you're able to rationalize a little bit more of, I have to say no, or I can't be a part of this. So I think it's really focusing on what you honestly are able to do and not feeling guilty about.
I think that gives us good perspective on the foundation people, because if you're a nonprofit, and I've worked for nonprofits before, it's like so many of them, it's just so mysterious. You can't find names. And for you to just be out there and, say, here I am, here's what I think, here's how we do things at our family foundation. I think it's such a breath of fresh air. I love the whole transparency. And I think it just, again, it goes back to greater understanding. And for Uncommon Philanthropy, for me, I believe we're kind of starting to pull back the veil and invite more people into whatever piece of it works for you. So Morgan, thank you for sharing that.
No problem. I feel like we've lost a lot of individual donors. We've seen a decrease in it, and I think it's due to lack of transparency. I think it's due to lack of connection and people not seeing who's on the other side of that, not humanizing one another and realizing that we are people that are trying to resolve the issues. And that's why I really love being out there and engaging, because I want to kind of bring the human back in humanitarian work and philanthropy, and kind of reignite these fires in everyone, that we really need to come together as communities to resolve a lot of these issues, and we're capable of it.
Well, you are a fantastic ambassador, or should I say diplomat?
Thank you.
Such a big word. So I love to close out these conversations with a little bit of talking about my tagline, which is let go. And that term let go means something different for each person. So Morgan, close us out with a let go, and then just tell me, in your terms, what does that mean? What does let go mean to you? And what
let go of fear of being uncomfortable. All growth, you're gonna be uncomfortable. So let go of that fear and just be who you are and know what you're capable of and try.
Outstanding. So how can people get in touch with you?
You can find me personally on all social media. You'll see a lot of pictures of my dogs, but you'll find me on social media. You'll also find our foundation, the DeNicola Family Foundation, on Instagram, Facebook. We have our own website, DeNicolaFamilyFoundation.org. And there's a contact us page. So if you have any ideas or thoughts or just want to say hi, feel free to fill that out, and that goes directly to me. And I would love to hear what different communities are up to and things that they'd like to see. We also have a Bright Light Award that is going out to young kids that are showing that philanthropic or that charitable instinct at a young age. So we would love for people to be reaching out and telling us of these young kids that are out there doing these really awesome things. And because they might be one of those kids that we'd love to acknowledge and give a plaque to and help out in whatever way we can. So feel free to also reach out to us and nominate somebody in your community.
I love that. So how can people find out more information about that on your website?
Yes, on our website, there's information about it. And I also very soon will be launching my own personal website, and all the information from the foundation to speaking engagements to HDI will all be held also on my website. So just find us on any social media and feel free to just reach out, and I'll send you information, or you can inquire about anything you'd like to see.
Morgan DeNicola, it has been a delight talking to you. Talk about a bright bright light. Thank you for what you do, for educating us and inspiring us and helping us be better uncommon philanthropists. You take care and keep doing the great work.
Thank you. You too.